I started recording. Yeah. So yeah, I was saying, Anand, thanks for setting this up. I've been passively observing what people have been writing about, what have their questions have been doubts. And first things first, you are not the only one. This is the same thing which I had, and even my brother is also an ISB alum. He graduated in 2007. I graduated in 2015. So both me and him, all of us went through that same sort of doubts, questions regarding the process, regarding what to do, how do they can improve their odds, etc. So you're not the first one, and you won't be the last one. This is the first thing I want to tell and share with everyone, that the feeling which you're going through right now has been more amplified because of social media. You have Reddit, you have GMAT Club, you have many other forums. So it's okay to be a little confused. It's okay to doubt yourself. It's okay to read more. But at the same point of time, please try to understand that this is, first of all, ISB or for that matter, MBA is not the end of your life. This is just the starting of your goals to, so don't put extra stress on yourself. That would not help the cause at all. Rather, try to look at it as a journey and enjoy the journey, so that at the end of at the end of the process, the admissions process, you will feel, even some of you, most of you will get accepted, I hope. Some of you will might get rejected, but at the end of the day, at the end of the process, you should feel that this is something which you learned from this process and would help you in your later professional and personal career lives as well. So without further ado, I would want to start telling you, giving you a brief about what the process looks like, ISP process looks like, what are the things to be done, what are things you should be taking care of, best practices, etc. Just a quick repeat, my name is Arijit. I'm the co-founder and CEO of CrackAdmission. We are a boutique admission consulting firm, we have helped more than 250 plus applicants get into ISB as well as other global business schools over the last 8+ years. And it would be my pleasure to work with some of you in the next few months. So let me share my screen and start the process. Just a second.
Yeah.
Anand, can you please let me know if my screen is visible?
Yeah. And while you do that, Arijit, a quick note for everyone. So any doubt that you have while Arijit is going through his, material, please feel free to put down your questions in the chat box. Once the session is over, we'll last 15 minutes I've kept it for Q&A. So based on the questions that you put, I'll pick up some questions and we'll take those questions for you. So feel free to put down your questions as we go ahead in the chat box, right?
Right. Great. So first thing, as I mentioned, some people get accepted, some people get rejected. And the question is, my profile was similar to the other person's profile. We had similar GMAT scores, similar GRE scores. We worked in a similar sort of companies. We had similar years of experience. So why did he or she get selected and I did not? So this is a classic question which a lot of people have, and you will see different forums talking about this. The answer lies in the details of how that person has portrayed him, or that person has portrayed himself or herself in the application. And that's what you need to remember, that the ISB is not looking to select resumes. They are looking to select future classmates. And for the classmates, there are different stuff they kind of ISB evaluates in a profile before giving an admission offer. It's not just what your resume says. So forget the fact that no two people are alike, and hence even if on paper some of the things are overlapping, then there is how it is. It all depends on how you portray that experience in front of the admission committee. Now, what's the process? How does the evaluation? At the end of the day, we are going to do an MBAs. We are all professional. We are working in jobs. We should be familiar with process framework, and that's what you would know, that at ISB, or that for that matter any business school, they have a very structured framework towards evaluating applicants. There are few things which are tangible and there are few things which are intangible. So in terms of tangible things, what are they looking for? They're looking for your undergrad GPA and which specialization, university, your work experience, number of years experience, what companies have you worked with, your GMAT or GRE score, to some extent your 12th score as well, and number of promotions you have received at work. So all of these tangible elements are weighted average together, with GMAT being the highest weightage, and to give you a final score of T. This is done by computer. No AI, no, this is done by a computer, not an AI, but a very simple matrix or rubric. In terms of intangible scores, now what are intangibles? Intangibles are all the things which a human reviews, and that human is an admission committee member. These are your essays, these are your letter of recommendation, this is your CV, and other things which qualitative aspects you mention in your application form. Out of these, essays have the highest weight, and again, a weighted average score, IT, is created. Now, T and IT are again weighted average together to give you a score of S. So, anyone who is above the certain threshold of S in a particular round, they are shortlisted for an interview, right? So, now you have an S score, and then you give an interview. Let's say you give an I score. S, and I are again um, weighted average together to give you a final Z score or Z score, which, if you are above a certain threshold, you are given an offer. Now, a lot of people have doubts whether, if I am selected for an interview and you're also selected for an interview, does it mean that all of us are on the same page or in the same plane? No, absolutely not. As you can see from this rubric, S is still weighted averaged with I to give you a final score of Z. It doesn't mean that if you only ace your interview, you will get through. At the same point of time, it doesn't mean that if you have great S score, which is at the application stage, you will again get an offer. So you need to control all of them. Your GMAT controls the T, tangible, essays control the intangibles, and interview controls the final, or the Z, which is a combination of all of that. Right. So this is the framework you should be looking at when you are planning for how to ace the application. So you know what has which weights, and then you plan your strategy accordingly. Now, let's go to more detailed. Now, when ISB, as I mentioned to you, ISB is not looking for resumes, specific resumes. They're looking for future classmates. And in terms of future classmates, what are they looking for? They are looking at any application from three different lenses. The first lens is an academic, whether you are an academic fit to the cohort. The second lens is whether you're professional fit to the cohort. And the third lens is whether you are a cultural fit to the cohort. Academic and professional are pretty much, I'm sure all of you are well aware of how do you, what are the academic and professional fitment means. Cultural fitment is where a lot of people have little doubts. So cultural fitment is about whether you will be able to add value to the cohort, you will be able to extract value from the cohort. And this is beyond your academic merit and professional merit. This is based on your personality traits, your past experiences in a non-professional setup, etc. So yeah, so all these three lenses are extremely important when you are covering your basis for the admission. In terms of academic fitment, the GMAT or the GRE score is the primary component of academic fitment, followed by how the quantitative elements in your career, quantitative rigor in your career. If you have promotions, it is great. It is a great indicator of academic fitment. And lastly, your undergrad university and GPA. So what sort of university, which sort of university you have graduated from? Is it a tier one? Have you graduated from an IIT or an LSR? Or is it a tier two, like a DC or a BITS Pilani, right? So that, and combined with the GPA, or this makes your academic fitment story. It is very much possible that a person who has a 675 in the GMAT Focus Edition shows more evidence of rigor as compared to somebody who has a 695, but then his GMAT score 695 great, but his ACADS undergrad was not that so great, university was not so great, his career he or she did not have a lot of um, promotions in your career. So that, while his GMAT or her GMAT score would have been more than somebody's 675, the 675 guy will still get more preference because it's an overall holistic fit. Now coming to professional fitment. The professional fitment, a lot of people believe that professional fitment is primarily based on which brand or which colleges have you graduated from, or sorry, rather, which companies have you worked with. If you worked with a consulting firm or investment banking or a top tier startup, that means that you will get the maximum rewards. If you have a title VP, you'll get the maximum rewards. You have years of experience, multiple years of experience, you'll get the maximum reward. No, that's not true. It is all about growth. In terms of professional fitment, ISB is looking for whether in your professional journey, do you have an upward trajectory or not? Even if it is 2 years compared to 3 years, compared to somebody who has 6 years. Stick 6 years stagnant versus 3 years growth or like momentum is well perceived. 3 years is well perceived, and 6 years who are where somebody is in has a very stagnant career. They're also looking for whether you have demonstrated leadership qualities or not. At times, the leadership qualities are based on your title, for example, a team lead, and most of the times, leadership qualities are something which you do because of your own motivation. You take an initiative and do it. So these are also things which ISB looks for in an applicant, whether they have leadership potential and they have momentum in their professional career, because both of these things will help them add value to the cohort. Next, cultural fit. As I mentioned, a lot of people misunderstand what is cultural fitment. I have these discussions with so many people, most people think cultural fitment is extracurriculars and which is equivalent to an NGO work. This is absolutely not true. Trust me, NGO work, people, admission committee members, people like me, Anand, and other, some of you would become alums in future. You would easily see through that NGO work has nothing to do with extracurriculars. NGO work, a lot of times people fake their NGO work. It's very easy to do it in India. You'll easily get a certificate. A lot of people just before the admission, 4 months before the admission, they join an NGO and start doing something. That's not true. Admission committee members see through it. Rather than that, you should think about cultural fitment from any angle wherein you have worked somewhere where it is not, you are not directly compensated for that work. And secondly, there was a community involvement. It can be anything. You've been part of a theater group, great. You've been doing podcasting, great. You have been playing poker with a group of people, great. You've started a book club, great. You started a YouTube channel, great. Photography, great. All of these things are great. You don't need to be a master at any of them. You don't need to be a um, a Shamami of YouTube to get the eyeballs of ISB. You just need to demonstrate that you've done something because of passion, wherein there was a community side of things as well, which means that you have impacted other people as well, not just you. Yeah. So playing chess is not a great cultural fit, but if you tell that, hey, I have not only played chess, but I have been taking chess sessions online for a group of people, or I'm part of a chess community, we play regularly over the weekends, etc. So the second statement is more powerful as compared to I having a FIDA ranking of XYZ in chess. So just to give you an example of what does the third element mean. Now, goals. This is again, all of you are here and all of you would go to ISB primarily to reach a certain career goal. And you should always have that at the back of your mind while applying during ISB and throughout the journey. Now, in terms of goals, a lot of people feel that I want to get into consulting. I want to get into certain product management. But why do you want to get into that is very important. And what are the things which you have today which will help you get there with the support of ISB is extremely important to communicate. So I have figured out a very simple framework called the X plus Y is equal to Z framework, which will, if you write it down, and you will be able to understand what sort of career goals you should be mentioning. So what is X, what is Y, and what is Z? X is a list of all the skill sets which you have today, all hard and soft skill sets which you have today. Z is a list of all skill sets which you require in your future career goal. So Z can be Z1 for consulting, Z2 for product management, Z3 for, let's say, business development. So the X remains same, the Z changes. So you need to figure out what is your Z, what are the things you require in your future career goal in terms of hard skills and soft skills, and then Y is something which you don't have today. Y is equal to Z minus X. All the things which you require tomorrow, but you don't have today. This is essentially what ISB or an MBA program should be. Right. And again, because ISB is a 1 year program, you don't have internships, and ELP or the experiential learning project is not equivalent to an internship. Hence, your Y should be less than 40% of Z, less than equal to 40% of Z, which means you need to already have a lot of skills in your future which are required in your future role as of today. You cannot look at ISB as a complete game changer. While ISB talks about year of transformation, while all the materials about a business school talks about transformation, changing careers, roles, etc., etc., but then look at it from a recruiter's perspective. A recruiter would typically hire those who have some sort of alignment with the industry work they have come to. They will not just hire people because they have an MBA. An MBA with relevant experience is better for recruiter than an MBA without past relevant experience. An admission committee member looks at your goals from a recruiter's lens. Why? Because at the end of the day, what is ISB known for? And why are Indian business schools known for? What are Indian business schools rather known for? They're known for their placements, their recruitment. So if you have a career goal which is impractical, for example, you are working in, let's say, fashion, and you tomorrow say, I want to start a VC fund. Can you do that? Of course, you can do that. However, is it very practical in a span of 11 months? The answer is probably not. You don't have the skill sets. You working in a fashion brand as a designer, wanting to start up a VC fund. People will be like, these doesn't make sense. On the other hand, if you say that I am a designer, I want to work in the short time, I want to work with a VC backed fashion startup, for example, let's say Snitch or Rare Rabbit. And then eventually, at the end of the day, a few years from then, I want to start my own fashion brand, or I want to start a VC fund which is catering towards D2C fashion brands. That story, the second story, is much more realistic, possible, and would be much more appreciated by the mission committee members as compared to the first one. Hence, very important for you to figure out what is your what is your Z, and how much of that Z you are looking for from an ISB. Now, this comes back who you are is what people try to the ISB looks for in an applicant, and not just what you have done. They're not just looking for a person who has a stellar CV. They're looking for a person who is well-rounded, a person who has demonstrated skill sets beyond professional realm, a person who has seen growth, a person who has gone through rejections, a person who has gone through highs of life and career as well, a person who has contributed to people or the community without any vested interest. So these are and a person who understands why they are coming to ISB and what they want to get out of ISB. So these are things which are important for you in terms of communicating your story, your narrative. You are not just communicating a list of things you have done. You are communicating the person you are. You're communicating why you have chosen certain things, not just what you have done. Right. So if you, let's say, for example, some people say, hey, if I build a startup, even doesn't succeed, doesn't matter. If I build a startup, then probably it will give me bonus points for ISB. The answer is a mix of yes and no. Yes, if you have built a startup and you are able to communicate to ISB what was your motivation to build that startup, why did you fail, what did you learn from the process, and how will that learning help you in your future. So if you're able to join the dots, that is when it will pique the interest of the admission committee member. If you just say built a startup and that failed, or that we raised a small some seed money, that is not something which they're looking for. They're looking for your story, your motivation to do what you have done. Last, in terms continuing the story part, these stories need not be big bang. These stories need not, I mean, of course, every now and then you would hear in the ISB batch, there was somebody who had played an IPL. There's somebody who had been a fashionista, somebody who was a big time YouTube influencer. But yes, those are very somebodies. They are not the norms. They are the outliers. So only in a batch of 1,000 people, you will find only 10, 15 or people who have such extraordinary um, accolades. Rest, everyone is like you. You are not different. You are not different from the other person. However, what is important is how you are conveying your story. Conveying your story, in terms of conveying your story, you need to be authentic. You should not be fabricating information. If you are extrapolating something, that's okay, but you should not be fabricating information. You should be authentic. You should demonstrate emotional honesty. You should be able to connect with the reader. The person should be able to connect that, hey, this is a guy who has done something which is extremely authentic, and he's true to himself or herself, and he or she will continue the same the same mentality or the same thought process while at ISB as well. So these are the things which you need to emphasize on. You don't need to looking for big bang uh, extracurriculars or big bang experiences. Original stories which shows depth, which has reflection of who you are, is what is needed. Next thing, consistency. Yes, as I mentioned, there are different aspects. When you are looking at the evaluation framework, you saw the different aspects of the entire submission you're doing. There are essays, there is a CV, there's a letter of recommendation, there's an interview. Now, all the four things about you, these should be consistent. These should not be having um divergent meanings or stories. For example, if your essays, in your essays, you've written that you are somebody who's a risk taker, somebody who takes a lot of instinctive decisions, who's good at multitasking, etc., etc. If your story in the essay is like this, and your letter of recommender or your recommender in his or her letter of recommendation, the person mentions that, hey, this applicant is somebody who's extremely methodical, extremely data oriented, extremely operational. So now, if you look at it, both the qualities mentioned in the LOR as well as the essays are in themselves great qualities, positive qualities. However, it cannot be this for the same person. How can one person who's extremely methodical, process oriented, be such a risk taker? Somebody who's working on instincts or gut, right? It cannot be, right? So that means there is a disconnect. And admission committees can flag this disconnect very easily. So I would encourage all of you that when you are writing these different, when you are thinking about these different aspects of the application, don't think of them as standalone aspects. Rather, think of them as part of one single story. The consistency is extremely important. You should not be, every part of your application should be conveying, conveying the same or similar, not same, similar perspective about you. Now, in your profile, some people believe that a lot of people over the years have asked me to do a profile evaluation. In a profile evaluation, a lot of people have mentioned, hey, I've done so and so and so and so and so. I've done X extracurriculars. I have done in my job, I have done five, six things, etc., etc. So, out great, right? But then you should not come across as somebody who's a jack of all trades. Which essentially means that you should be, even if you have done all of these things, you need to prioritize which of them are actually something which worthy of mentioning in application versus which of them can be ignored for the time being. So you might have done 11 extracurriculars, you've taken part, have 4 roles, you have 3 certifications, and many more. But when you are writing your application, be it your CV, be it your essays, a letter of recommendation, or your recommender is writing, you should be focusing on 2 or 3 major stories. You should not be talking about everything. Don't feel it's not a school exams where teachers say that, hey, right, if you write 5 points in a exam of 5 marks, you will, even if some of these points are not great, we'll still give you um, some grace marks. Here it is not. Here it is rather being pinpointed, thorough, and true to what you are saying. You should not be talking about a lot of things which makes you look like a jack of all trades. Now essays, I am sure all of you have at some point of time today, or rather have reviewed the essays. If you are serious about applying to ISB this year, you would have seen the essays, and the essays are same as that of last year. So there are 4 essays. Out of these 4 essays, 3 are mandatory for everyone. The fourth one, which is a reapplication essay, is only for people who are reapplying this year. The first essay, ISB asks you to talk about unique experiences which have influenced who you are as a leader and changed your leadership style. In this question, the ISB is just not looking for accolades. It is not looking for demonstrating. You should not be demonstrating that you are a hero of the story. They're not looking for heroes. They are not looking for quantum of numbers. They're not looking that, hey, you've managed 20 people and made sure their work is getting done, accountable for their work, etc. They're not looking for that. It's anyways there in the CV. They're rather looking for emotionally honest answers. For example, if somebody mentions that, hey, my biggest leadership challenge was when I had to fire 5 people. I was one who was given the responsibility to cutting down my team by 50% because of an AI initiative which the company was taking up. So I had to fire five people out of my team, and these people were the ones who had groomed for the last 5 6 years, and now I had to, or like 3 4 years, I had to fire them. I had to communicate this story to them. So this can be a great leadership story rather than saying that I've managed 10 people and got the work done. The project was valued at so and so. We did it in so and so lesser time. No, all of this is there in a CV. Rather to tell about transformational experience wherein leadership comes across. And why was it challenging? What do you do to overcome that challenge? And what are takeaways which you would now then use in your future career? So that's the first essay. Now, the next question is, what sort of intellectual experiences have influenced your thought process and shaped up your reason to current reason to do an MBA? So here they're looking for, this is a classic rewording of the goals essay, where they're asking you the similar, the x plus y is equal to z, that framework. They're asking you what sort of things have triggered you, motivated you to spend 40 lakhs plus 1 year of your time, so much opportunity cost, and do an MBA. It should not be just I want to become a consultant, or I want to become a product manager. Extremely lame. It does not demonstrate the depth. It does not show why you want to invest 40 lakhs plus 1 year of your time along with opportunity cost to do an MBA. You should definitely have to talk about, you need to definitely talk about triggers. For example, a trigger can be, hey, while I was doing this, as we were preparing for a launch, we realized that one of the things was not tested. One of our features was not tested, but we had planned for a launch on the certain day. So as a software developer, I felt that we should not launch. However, my manager, the marketing team, made a conscious decision to launch, even though internally we knew that there were some um, gaps or issues with the product. So why did they launch? This was a unique experience for me. It was a trigger for me to understand. When I talked to the manager, who happened to be an alum from a business school, he mentioned to me the brand reputation will get hit if we don't launch. We have already spent for marketing dollars. We have already booked something. And even if it's a small minor glitch or like some glitch, let's be open to our customers. Let's tell them that, hey, during this is a beta trial or this is a new launch. You might experience some issues with the product. We welcome your review and feedback so that we can make it better. But we should not delay the launch, because delaying the launch will have a lot of implications which are just beyond the product usage. So this is something which an MBA guy could think about, because he or she was looking at from different angles, or wherein a software developer was looking at from just a unidimensional angle of product experience. Right. So these are kind of things you should be talking about in your second essay, which talks about intellectual experiences. Now the third essay, the third mandatory essay, which talks about what pursuits and interactions with the community have changed your worldview. Um, Guys, I would encourage you to please turn off your audio. So, what pursuits have encouraged you, or what pursuits and worldview, along with the community, have um, changed your worldview? This is again the community question which I was referring to prepare, the community lens. They're asking for things, they want to understand how do you interact in a non-professional work setting? How do you interact when you're not incentivized by money to do certain things? Are you a good team player, or are you somebody who flies solo? Are you somebody who believes in my way or highway, or somebody who can work with a team? Here, ideally, you should be talking about experiences which are non-professional, experiences related to your extracurriculars, community work. That can be starting up. In fact, like I'll give you an example. Last year, I was working with somebody, and she said she had a very very hectic work schedule. Her boss was not giving her any free time. She was even working on weekends. She had messed up her GMAT twice, so she had to focus on GMAT as well. At the same point of time, she knew that this question would need to be answered. So what should she talk about? She did not have any time for extracurriculars. So after a lot of brainstorming, we realized, and I mean, together we realized that she was great in basketball while she was in college, and in school, but never pursued it after starting work. But she still wanted to play basketball. So now, how can you play basketball when you don't have so much time? You can only play when you play if you can take out some time on a weekend and play at a place which is geographically very close to where you are. Which means that if you can start a society group, if you can encourage people in your society and residential society, she used to live in a residential society which is about 500 odd flats. So she started a small Telegram group in her residential society where with a small pool. Hey, I want to play basketball on the weekend. Anyone interested? Girls, boys, both okay. So a lot of people said, yes, I am interested. She moved them to a separate Telegram group. And then she started this entire thing where people could discuss as a forum who wants to play basketball, team up, book a slot through the society application, and then play, right? And people start exchanging about, and even if she did not play, the community itself played. For example, what Anand has done today, right? In the setting up a community, this community, right? Even if Anand becomes passive for, let's say, 1 month because of some personal professional commitment, will the community die down? Absolutely not, right? Because you guys are there. Because he was able to create a community which was sustainable. So these are things which these kind of examples, if you talk about in this essay, would really click with the admission committee because you've done something for the community and in a selfless manner and a sustainable manner where which can last beyond your active involvement, right? Last but not least, the reapplication. Some of you might be reapplicants who have applied to ISB last year or year before. So for them, it is very important that you talk about they answer what has changed in your profiles in the last time did you apply since you applied. So here, I would encourage everyone to talk about both changes in both uh, professional experience as well as personality traits. So if you have picked up a new hobby or a new activity, mention that. You've got a great project at work and you got exposure to a new industry and new geography, mention that. You don't have to, if your GMAT or GRE has changed, you don't have to per se mention it here because anyways that's part of the application form. You'll anyway see the admission committees anyways look at it as a quantitative element, tangible quantitative element. A computer will anyways grade that, so you don't have to use any real estate text space to write that. Rather you should talk about one professional story, one personal story, right? So at the end of the day, through all the essays combined, what ISB is looking for, the answer which ISB is trying to figure out, whether you will be a good classmate, whether you will be a good collaborator, and whether you'll be a good leader in the future. These are the three questions which ISB is trying to gauge from your responses of the four essay, 3 or 4 essay, depending on what is your persona. Okay. Moving on. Oh, okay. I think we're at the end of the presentation. I don't have any further things as far as information to share with you. This is a list of a lot of people with whom I have worked with in the last few years. People have come from different backgrounds. Some people from fashion, some people from CA, some people from engineers, and different industries. And what was common across all of them was that they were able to demonstrate that they were a good cultural, academic, and professional fit to the cohort. Last but not the least, I think this question might come up. I have not addressed it here because I think it's openly available in open source as well. Between GMAT and GRE, ISB has no preference over one exam versus another. GMAT, there is a normalization table wherein any GMAT score is converted to a GRE score. So there is no preference of GMAT versus GRE or the other way around. Now for PGP as PGP, and as far as round one versus round two versus round three is concerned, what is definitely true is your chances of getting a scholarship are highest in round one, followed by round three and round two, and round three has least chances of getting a scholarship. Now, in terms of admission chances, between round one, round two, and round three, I would, because of everything which is going on in the US market, in other business schools. So, round one and round two in today's world are typically extremely similar as far as your admission chances are concerned. Round three, a lot of people feel that it is slightly lower, but at the same point of time, you would also figure out that while it is a number of the seats in round three is lower, so is the number of people. right? So a lot of people apply by round one and round two. So not a lot of people are left for round three. Yes, the number of seats allocated for round three is 20% of the total class cohort compared to 45 and 35 in round one and round two respectively. But you need to also think that the number of applicants in round three is much lesser as compared to round one and round two. Yeah, that's about it. It was great sharing this with all of you in today's session. Now, Anand, I would look forward to answer any questions which the students have here.
Yes, sir. I think we have few interesting questions that we can take up. While we had a lot of questions where people have asked about their personal profile, so we'll kind of ignore it, and we'll only focus questions which can kind of nourish everyone, right? So I have shortlisted few questions which I would like to take, right? So a lot of people ask about the impact of switch in their career, right? So maybe they have made four switches in 3 years of career. So how will they impact their career, like their chances in ISB?
Sure. See, this is what you should be looking at. The four, you can do n number of switches. In today's world, it's a very dynamic world. It is not a world where if you are loyal to an organization, that is your biggest character, right? It is an open market. You can make n number of switches. However, what ISB is looking for in those switches, is there a common trajectory? Is there or is Are you hopping? So if you look at it, the person in this graph, you see somebody went up, then went down, but again went up. So whether do you have momentum across the switches? Are you able to demonstrate tangible skills learned from one switch to another switch? Or is your second company and second company's role, what you're doing in the second company, absolutely different from the first company? Is your fourth company absolutely different from the third company or the role you're doing in the fourth company? If there is there is no relationship, if you're not able to articulate relationships between the roles and organizations, then that's a red flag. But if you're able to do a trajectory of how each role has helped you do better in the next role, then it is not considered, it is considered absolutely okay.
Yeah, yep, I think that answers your question. Uh, yes, Arjit. The next question that we have, this also I've personally heard from a lot of different people. What if they do not have a lot of very extraordinary or the kind of extracurriculars that you mentioned in their profile? So how do they balance that out?
Yeah, so see, what do you mean by extraordinary? That is my first question. That was my, I think I mentioned that somewhere. I forgot which slide was it. But extraordinary, you don't have to be extraordinary. If you're extraordinary in a certain field, you rather make a career in that field, right? For example, if somebody has played IPL or has an under 19 or whatever cricket, he or she is better suited to play cricket rather than joining a business school. If you are a great, let's say, theater artist, why don't you pursue a more creative field? Come to ISB. So you are not looking at ISB is not definitely looking at the the shining stars of each field, because if they're the shining star of a field, they would rather be. It is much beneficial the ecosystem that they go to that field rather than doing an MBA, right? So in terms of extracurriculars, it can be something very small, right? For example, a lot of you, I'm sure, love to read books. I'm not one of them, but I do love playing poker. So if I have set up a poker room wherein I have invited my friends to start playing poker, encourage people to show how poker is positive and not just negative thing, it's a great extracurricular. If the guys who you guys, if you some of you read books, if you can start a book club, right? You set up a book club on Saturday and you say that you decide a book. And for all those who don't know what is a book club, you or people team up digitally or physically, decide a book. Each of them have to read through the book, and the next time when they meet, they share the experiences of that understanding of that book. So you've done something like this, very simple, very trivial. This is also an extracurricular. Right? So if your, let's say your mom runs a bakery store, if you have helped your mom with digital marketing of that store by setting up a YouTube channel or Instagram handle, etc., etc., that's also extracurriculars. So all of these things are not, none of them are big bang. They need to be something where it demonstrates impact for a community is extremely important. Impact towards the community is extremely important, and that impact does not have to be in millions of dollars or 90% efficiency or all these fancy metrics. Something very small. And I gave the team an example of what one of the persons I worked with last year, she did. A Telegram group in her society of people who want to play basketball.
That's a very uh, good question. Really good question also, and very well answered. Thank you so much for that. Next thing that we have is, what about the gaps in profile and how do you deal with it, right? If someone has, suppose, 6 years or 1 month of gap in their profile, how do they deal with it?
See, gaps in profiles which are less than 6 months are absolutely okay. You can always show it as a like in the application you will see a section which says talks about any gaps in profile. I mean, if there is, if your end date or start date of the next role is not right after the end date of the previous role, if there is a gap, system automatically flags that as a gap and asks you to write what is the reason for this gap. So it is absolutely okay for you to write something which seems logically correct. For example, let's say um, I want to move into AI or work in the field of Gen AI, etc., etc. I am somebody who's a digital marketer. So now I have taken a 3 months break to learn AI, to talk with people, understand applications of AI in digital marketing, and then once I upskill myself, then start a digital marketing job. Right. So that if this is a kind of gap where you are able to demonstrate what you did in the gap in a logical manner and how is that relevant to your next role, that's absolutely okay. If you say my gap was because my father or mother was not doing well and I had to help support the family in terms of family business, and we have a small family business, I went there, support the family with the family business, and now when things are much more streamlined, I can now come back to work. Again, very logical. People do understand. We are not bonded laborers. Nobody expects like 100%. It's not a roll call. Nobody is expecting 100% attendance. So if you have a few months of break, that's completely okay. The moment you start doing a 1 year break, that is where the red flag starts coming in. People, I would not say red flag, but people start doubting as to what you did, which took you 1 year. Some people mention that I've been preparing for the GMAT and it took me 1 year. And during that time, I prepared for the GMAT. Now the admission committee would start feeling a little discomfort because everyone else did their GMAT along with your work. So why do you need special treatment? Why did you need 1 year to prepare for your GMAT where everyone else in whom we selected, they were multitasking along with the regular work? That is a story people would not want to believe. And hence, you need to be aware of what is the story, what is the rationale for that gap. And of course, if there's a gap, those months of experience don't count in your cumulative work experience. That's a different quantitative aspect. But gaps are definitely not considered bad. They are considered absolutely okay as long as you're able to justify the need for that gap, what you did in that gap. If you say that, hey, I had a very hectic work, I could not travel, and that's why I took a 3 months break to just travel around the world or just to travel in India, that's completely okay. People do understand that because of that hectic work you do this. So as long as your rationale or reason for that gap is legit and logical, when I say legit, I mean logical. Nobody is going to go and check your any of your track records. They're not going to check any of that. In fact, for extracurriculars also, ISB does not check certificates. IIMs do. ISB and global business schools don't. So whatever you are writing with your own um, judgment. Nobody is going to come back and say, "Hey, you wrote something wrong." But people will figure out from the rest of the application, your essays, interview, etc. If you are trying to fake it.
Yes, I think that sums up it. Yep. One more big area where a lot of people have questions is regarding the YL. Rajit, will you be able to tell us how the YL applications will look different from the PGP that we generally talk about?
Sure. See, firstly, what is PGPYL? PGP postgraduate program. Y stands for young, L stands for leaders. So first thing, as the name suggests, that L in YLs is all about leadership. And ISB admission committee understands that with less than 2 years experience, which is a cap, right? For YL, with less than 2 years experience, or as low as 0 months of experience, as high as 48 months of experience, you might not have got a title to say that you are a leader. you might not have gotten that title. You might not have gotten a team leader, manager, etc., sort of a title. Hence, they might not be absolutely sure whether you have demonstrated leadership at work. So you need to demonstrate from your stories and your professional stories, as well as outside work stories, that you have taken up leadership roles. For example, if you are part of any blood donation drive, a lot of people I've seen have mentioned that they have been part of blood donation drives. Just donating blood is not as impactful as you say that I grouped in a team of people. I increased, I we grouped, we create some incentives for people to donate blood. We encourage people to donate blood, etc., and then now the quantum of blood we collected was 80% greater than last events. So wherein you talk about something which you did different from others, wherein you took an initiative. So these are things you should be aware of as far as ISB PGP while applications are concerned, that you need to demonstrate um, leadership, leadership via initiatives, and via something which is where you are not expected to do that. You did it out of your own will. Now, as far as GMAT scores are concerned, as you and some of you might know, for others, PGP, as a PGP, required only accepts GMAT Focus Edition or GRE. On the other hand, PGP YL accepts GMAT Focus Edition, GRE, as well as CAT. People don't have a lot of experience. That's why their GMAT scores are the average GMAT score, the average score of a applicant who has succeeded in getting an application admission in PGP YL is greater than that of PGP by at least a minimum of 10 points, and you can even say 20 points. But you need to have higher scores in GMAT or GRE or CAT in PGP YL to get into ISB as compared to a PGP. Because in PGP you have multiple other things. You have multiple years of experience, you have promotions at work, you have accolades, etc. In PGP YL, since you don't have these things, they would look for a higher GMAT score, and they would also look for proxies outside work wherein you have demonstrated leadership skills.
Yes, sir. Okay. Without that as well. Okay. Now we know that we are not in that stage for a lot of folks, but still people want to know what about using AI in essay and how does that impact your overall chances? Like how does ISB see using AI to write your essays?
So ISB has been, forget about AI, ISB has been using plagiarism tools since a long time. So when we were, when and Anand, I'm sure it was there in your, when you were studying as well. When I was studying, my brother told me, I mean, before I joined ISB, he told me, you do anything and everything, you get a 2.5 CGPA. That's okay. Nobody gives a damn. But if you are caught in plagiarism, you will be expelled from the college. Your money will go down. You'll have a blacklist. So you will be literally expelled from the college. So do anything and everything. You can drink on campus, no problem. There are parties thrown on campus. You can go out, never come back. You can miss some classes. You can do all of that. You can think of whatever you imagine. You can do all of that, but don't do cheating. Don't plagiarize. Don't take somebody else's assignment and do it. This was from 2007. I graduated in 2014. I mean, I started college in 2014. My brother did in 2007. Anand did it a couple of years back. So all of us were given the same thing. Now with AI, it has even become even more powerful. There are tools in which check, and I'm sure because you guys, some of you asked about AI tools which generate something. You are sure, I'm sure that you are also aware that there are AI tools which can flag AI content, right? So, and again, as I mentioned to you, even if you write something, I mean, you can brainstorm with an AI, but don't get things written by an AI, because if you do so, there are ways ISP will pick that up. And I mean, of course, they can't expel you because not you've not gotten admit. They will completely reject your application. And you won't get to know about it. They would not even give a reason that they rejected you because you had used AI. So I would say that be authentic. Don't try to pick up stuff which seems great on paper because AI has written it. And at the same point of time, do remember that it is not just yeah. your essays, your CV, your LOR, your interview. All four of them should be converging about you. Your essays you might have written by AI. CV you can't write by AI, right? This is a list of actual stuff which you have done. LOR, your recommender, why will he write by an AI? He might write by AI, but that AI prompt is different from the prompt which you used. So the languages will be different. Like there can be conflict in terms of narratives. And of course, in the final interview, people will see through it if the essays were written by AI and you are not able to justify some of the things they'll ask you in the interview. So I would strongly suggest don't go by the charm of getting a fancy answer based on a prompt using one of the Gen AI tools, but rather be authentic about it. Because see, at the end of the day, if you get rejected, you would never get to know also that because of that AI plagiarism or AI flagging, you got rejected. So my earnest response should be write bad grammar. That's okay. Your grammar is not great, great. You write long sentences, that's okay. You're not the most polished person in the room, that's okay. But you be authentic rather than be getting things done from AI.
Yes, I think that was put very clearly. One question that we have regarding the family business. So people coming, having their work experience in their family business, how do they provide a proof of their work experience in the family business?
See, when you ask for proof of family business, right? So, firstly, I'll be very firstly factual in this response, and then I'll tell you later on what are the things you need to consider. Firstly, when you are doing a family business, then um, you might be on payroll. You might be running a business as well as a payroll. For example, I have a business, but I'm also an employee of the company, so I get a salary from the business as well, right? On the other hand, you might not get take a salary, but you still have to file your ITR. So if you are getting a salary, show the salary as a proof. If you don't get a salary, you have to show the ITR as a proof. It cannot be that you are not able to show your salary slip or your ITR, because both of them, I mean, not filing an ITR is a compliance breach, and hence you don't want to demonstrate that you are doing a compliance breach. But they would ask you for either a salary slip or your ITR. So and they ask you for only last 3 months ITR. So the good part is even if till now you don't draw any salary from the company, you can at least on paper show that you are drawing X amount of salary in the months of July, August, and September. If you're sorry, June, July, August, if you're applying in round one of September this year. So get 3 months of salary slips with you, or you show your previous year's ITR, but you have to show them. Now, but more importantly, these are very cosmetic and administrative things. What more importantly, the question should be, which you should be thinking about, is why, if you are in a family business, and do you want to continue the family business, grow your family business post the MBA, or you want to change? You need to have a good rationale and logic behind either of these answers. Secondly, you also need to think through why do you don't want to join a family business focused program which ISB runs. ISB has something called MFAB, Masters of Family Business Administration, something. So why you need to understand that why that program is not better suited for you as compared to a regular PGP, because that's something which you will have to answer, not necessarily in your essays, but definitely in your interview. It's better that you address that in your essays as well. So that is something, if I was you, I'd be looking more rather look at this that narrative rather than the administrative part. But as far as administrative part is concerned, get salary slips or get your previous year's ITR. Either of them work.
Yep, that were the most of the questions, Arijit. One last question that I would like to ask you is, people, there are major chunk of people from merchant navy background, so they want
Yep.
to know, is it a positive thing to be from a merchant navy, or is it kind of you need to compensate it with a higher GMAT or something else? Like, how does it impact your profile?
See, it used to be a really big differentiator earlier. Earlier, when not as you mentioned, not a lot of people from different backgrounds were applying to ISB. Now, a lot of people from different backgrounds apply to ISB. Merchant Navy being one of them, a lot of people from Merchant Navy do apply to ISB every year, as you also found from your research. At that point of time, it is important. GMAT, you still need to have a GMAT as GMAT based on what I mean, you need based on the framework I suggested to you, you need to have a decent GMAT. Nothing will but your GMAT score, what the GMAT score you might be targeting compared to a GMAT score with, let's say, somebody who worked in IT or data analytics with the same amount of time, you might need a lower GMAT score because your other parts of your application would counterbalance your GMAT score. Having said that, you can't, I mean, it will be very difficult for you to get into ISB with, let's say, a 635 GMAT. Yes, you might get into the 655, whereas somebody who's working in IT or data analytics might not get into the 655. But it's important for you to demonstrate how will your merchant navy experience help the other people in the cohort. It's very important for you to demonstrate that because of you being in merchant navy, what do you bring to the table? Do you bring to the table an understanding of international laws? Do you bring to the table an understanding of geopolitics? Do you bring to the table an understanding of what happens if what happens with the Strait of Hormuz? Right? As a merchant navy person, you should be able to answer. You need to know these things, and if you're able to capture that in your application, that you will be helping people who want to understand more about geopolitics or trade, global trade, or logistics, and because of your experience, then yeah, why not? You'll be a good fit to the cohort. But if you're just saying that, if you believe that just because you're from merchant navy and most of the people are not from merchant navy, then ISB will give you any brownie points. No, ISB still expects you to demonstrate how would you add value to the cohort based on your merchant navy background.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One last question before we end this call is for people with more than, suppose, say, 8 or 10 years of work ex, right? So
Mhm.
they want to know how their profile is evaluated compared to someone with 3 years of work ex, right? And what things they should portray to kind of, put forward their profile.
So there's a saying called "old is gold," right? There's a say, or and the wine, and the more you preserve the wine, or for that matter, any whiskey, it becomes better. So you need to demonstrate. While this might not be true for applications, but you need to demonstrate this thing in your narratives. That how you being greater than the average experience of the cohort will add value to the rest of the cohort. What do you know? What are your learnings, and what how will that help the rest of the other people? You need to clearly demonstrate that. If you just show that, hey, I have more than 5 years, 7 years of experience and 3 promotions, that won't cut it. You need to demonstrate what, how will you add value to the cohort, and it is very important for you to clearly articulate what sort of career roles you are looking to get into post ISB. Because during placements, and Anand, you can probably chime in here because you've gone through the
Hmm.
placement season a few months back. During
Yes,
placement, there are certain roles which are applicable and open to people with certain years of experience. There are certain
correct,
rules that are open for everyone, and there are certain
correct.
roles that are open. For example, if it's a hardcore sales sort of a role, sales and marketing sort of a role, people with less than 3 years, 4 years of experience are typically positioned for those roles. People with more than 7 years of experience, there are certain roles like a senior product manager, right, of Amazon, which is particularly catered for people with more than 8 years experience. Eligibility criteria is only for people who have more than X number of years experience. So you need to be very, you need to do a research about what you are looking to get into. You can't feel like, hey, all roles, all companies will be open for me. You need to be sure that these are the companies which are open for me, and this is the reason why they will select me. So, as with somebody who has more than 7 to 8 years experience, your goals, your clarity in your goals has to be super, super laser sharp. You cannot be seen being portrayed as somebody who's experimenting. You need to show that you are super razor sharp or razor focused in terms of what you are looking to get from the program. At the same point of time, you need to demonstrate that because of your a higher number of years of experience, you are well positioned to add a lot of value to the cohort. If you do these two things correctly, then experiences your higher years of experience will only add value to your application or candidature rather.
Yes. Was that it? Yeah. 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 So I think that was a great session, Arijit. I think, me studying from ISB, I got to know so many things from this session, right? So I can only imagine how much this would have helped, all these folks who are preparing for ISB. right? So this was a great session. Thank you so much for taking out time and helping out people. I'm sure, once many of them are ready to apply for ISB when they have their GMAT score and all, uh, and when they interact with you one, it will kind of you'll be able to add a lot more value to them, right? Then, so for
Absolutely.
now, yes, so I think it was a great session. Thank you so much for your time, and I think we can end this call unless you have anything to say as an ending note.
No, I think that's about it. I just want to reiterate the fact that hey, during the next few months, you will be going through a lot. You will have your hectic job. You'll be trying to figure out some extracurriculars. You will have to go through your GMAT or GRE prep if you've not already done so. Then the admissions and the essays, etc., etc. Then out of all of this, you will have a lot of clutter coming from a lot of forums. Reddit, GMAT Club, XYZ, Pagal Guy. I don't even know which are the forums which are active, but there's a lot of information being spread, and people will tell you that hey, my I did so and why don't you do exact so and so? But don't go for that trap. You should only focus on specific things. As Anand mentioned, first things first, get a good GMAT score or a GRE score so that you have at least one thing covered. Now, in terms of extracurriculars, pick something just light, easy to do. Don't pick something where you might not be able to commit longer hours. Pick up something which is easy to do. As I mentioned, Ria, the applicant, so she picked up basketball in the society. Super easy. On a weekend, Telegram group can be done any point of time. So pick up some extracurricular. If you don't have an extracurricular right now, pick up something super easy to do. Don't get overwhelmed. This is not the end. And do remember the fact that you are spending 40 lakhs plus 1 year of your time and the opportunity cost of not working that year. So you you are not selling to ISB. ISB has already sold a dream to you. So you just have to make sure that you get your basics correct, go, demonstrate an authentic story, and you should be good. So don't. My last final comments are: ISB is not the end of the world for sure. B, don't get super stressed about all the things, all the clutter happening in the digital world. Rather, make realistic milestones for yourself and work towards them with a timeline in mind.
Yeah, that was a perfect ending on this. Cool. I think we can end this call. This thing we can take in this. Cool.
Okay,
Thank you everyone
perfect.
for joining.
Thank you everyone for joining. It was very nice sharing my thoughts with you. Hopefully, this would add value to your candidatures. And Anand, I'll send you the recording post the call. You can put it up on any handle or channel, whichever we feel deemed.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you both. Thank you.